what would be the number one takeaway that you want people to have after listening to this podcast?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I would say the number one takeaway we want to get from this one is you need to bend down before you can jump high. So you'll learn more once we actually get through this conversation, but you can't jump high without squatting first.
Oh, okay. Is that almost like run before you walk? Like the opposite, walk before you run?
You got to gain momentum. So you got to find out how low you can go before you can get to that high point. So we're going to find out more. Yeah.
Right on. Okay. For our audience that are listening that might not know too much about you, can you just describe, just on a high level, who you are and what it is that you do?
I mean, at super high level, I'm a country kid that found his way through technology and earned my way through life, and with hard work and perseverance. So, I grew up in a small town in Bala and Muskoka, and right in the middle of hockey country. And at 8 years old, I didn't have a lot of friends or a lot of population to pull from. So I had a computer with Reader Rabbit and AutoCAD on its machine. And
what's Reader Rabbit?
So Reader Rabbit was, Kevin O'Leary? Yeah. So he made an application that helped kids learn how to read and learn how to.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, that's what kind of I'm not quite 100% sure, but that was one of the applications that really helped levitate. And I had that and AutoCAD on my machine when I was 8 years old, and I was like, my sisters were on Reader Rabbit learning how to read, and I was over here drawing lines and making fake, hockey rinks in my basement. And I went from there, picked up some software tips along the way, and by the time I was 15, I was teaching at my local university in AutoCAD.
Really? Okay.
And because I just took a liking to it. It was a lot of fun.
What was that experience like, being 15 years old and talking to people that are, quite older than you?
Man, so it was wild. I actually went in for a course when I was about 14 for advanced AutoCAD because our shop teacher at school bought a new CNC machine and didn't really know how to put it all together.
What year was this?
This was 2002.
Okay, so those machines were relatively new, I think, back then, eh?
Brand new. Yeah. Our school was just created at the time.
Okay.
So we had all these new toys, and we were figuring out how to use them. So I had knowledge of AutoCAD and how to feed it into the machine, but I wanted more. So I went and took a course. And as I was taking the course, there were a lot of frustrated adults who were in this room who were contractors and architects and et cetera, were not quite grasping what the teacher was. So I started helping around the classroom. And I didn't know that the dean was sitting in on one of the classes. Oh. So he came up to me on class day 2 or day 3, and he's like, "You want his job?"
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Oh, boy. So I took it, and it was fun. Yeah, it kind of kickstarted my tech career.
Can you maybe just lead that into what it is that you're doing right now?
Yeah, 100%. So after that, I went to school to become a technologist in the architectural field, specializing in engineering technology for all different types of projects. So I started up a company doing residential homes at the time, or designing residential homes while in school and doing a bunch of things like that. And when I graduated, I actually decided that I really enjoy the tech side, so I'm going to stay true to it.
Okay.
And I started traveling all over North America through a company, helping firms of, from mom and pop shops all the way to multi-thousand employee companies to find their stride.
Wow, okay. That's a lot. We're gonna unpack that quite a bit here. And you said something that was really interesting there that caught my eye, is that you kind of fell in love with technology. And I was kind of in the same way, where when I was younger, we talked a little bit about this offline. I absolutely hate computers. I wanted nothing to do with them, but I ended up just loving what it can do and the capabilities that you can have. That I was just like, I just need to go all in. I need to learn this. And I was learning it on my own. And that being said, I feel like a lot of times people in technology can fall in love with it and just try to build things without even really having a problem or a need for what they're like. Why are we building this? So can you talk a little bit about that in terms of, people falling into the traps of just building for the sake of building, but not really having a problem? Like, I think you've encountered some of that before, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have built so many things that people don't need. And that's a lot of just natural curiosity. But I quickly discovered that curiosity is something that's not going to help you in the business world. I've started a company and failed a company previous to Oquli, which is the company I have right now. It was a residential home design firm, and I didn't operate it nearly the way I would expected to. And because I was torn when I grew up, I have an equal hemisphere of creativity and technical capabilities. So my head was constantly working against each other all the time.
Right, like left brain versus right brain kind of thing.
Yeah, I love doodling and drawing art, and then at the same time I love ripping things apart. So it's like, and making see how things work. When creating, I've failed numerous times. I've created Oquli when I first started was actually a way to get individuals into a shopping mall during the COVID times so that digitally, so that they can check out products without having to actually be there.
Okay. So Oquli then, is that like a virtual thing, like put on actual goggles and do some kind of virtual shopping?
Yeah, so it originally standard for seeing the light. So basically being able to be in another place at the same time, digitally plant yourself there and anchor and walk through a physical space while being able to see and interact with everything. And I went through the steps and just said, you know what, this is something people need. And didn't even bother asking questions. I was just like, you know, we can't touch each other, breathe on each other, communicate within another radius. So we just dove into it, and I just started making. And then I brought this, I remember the day too, brought this to Oxford Properties and went and showed what we're working on to the actual ones who run and own the malls.
Okay.
And they were like, this is absurd. Like, we don't need this at all. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm pivoting.
Yeah. Was that here in Halifax, or was that?
No, that was downtown Toronto, right?
Downtown Toronto. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is really cool technology. I see a need here, but you didn't do any validation, didn't talk to any of the stakeholders at all. You just started building. So how much time did you spend building this thing?
Oh, geez. I think in terms of probably about 6.5 months. Luckily, I didn't spend a big amount of time. I'm glad that, and this is a great advice for anyone who's starting off. You have to validate quick. And that was the one thing I was like, I just got to get this in front of somebody. And that's where my mind was at. I was like, I've got a great concept. And I was one of the lucky ones that was able to figure that out, that I should get this concept in front of somebody. If I had stuck to that and just kept on building, I would have washed out my wallet. I would have been Yeah,
because you could have been building for years.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I know many companies do that. Yeah. So it's wild.
Yeah, they think it's a good idea. We had Mel Hughes on the podcast a few episodes ago, and she's really big into validating and talking to your customers. She's like, get your idea in front of somebody that's going to actually have a problem and see if that's the right solution. Because I think for us, especially, I think people that mix in creativity with technology, we get into our heads of like, this is the best idea ever. Everyone's going to want this. I'm solving the world's greatest problems. And we don't think about real world problems and solutions and even how that fits. Even if you do have a great idea, there's still this whole thing of how do you bring a customer along that whole journey to get them to want to buy and see that they have a problem. Like it's a whole thing, and it's tough to wrap your head around.
And it doesn't stop. Like, this just happened 2 days ago. Like, literally just happened. Every month I have this thing called Storm of Brains, where I bring individuals from all different types of industries in the architecture, engineering, construction world into a session, and we pick a topic and we hammer out what the problems are. And I brought a big problem and actually came to the event using AI, created an application and brought it in as a talking point. And I opened it up in the meeting thinking I had something as a good starting point. And they're like, we don't even want to look at that. They were like, this does not help us at all. And I was like, all right, well, okay, let's listen.
Scratch that. So sorry, tell me a little bit about this. You bring in people to just have a brainstorming session like once a month. Is that virtually? Is that in person?
It's virtually. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's all invite. I send out a message to a variety. And this, one thing I found about the architecture, engineering, construction world historically is they don't like to communicate to each other because it's all about protecting IP. Like, everything is all about protect my own, don't communicate. But it's caused a massive dent in productivity. So we decided to take a different approach and just bring like-minded issues together every month and talk about it in that facet. And it's been working really well. So that's what we've been trying to do, is just raise the problems of communication and bring those they don't usually talk to the table. Yeah. And create a different vibe. So,
okay. What are you learning from these sessions? Like, what's the biggest revelation that you've had?
Man, I've had so many revelations. So every month is different. Like, the first month we talked about drawing review. We talked about quality control and quality assurance and how things are handled throughout projects. So I learned about like how companies do their reviews and how they review projects going forward. And some of the major revelations that have come out of it, like for instance, cost control. We just talked about this 2 days ago since it's fresh in my head.
Yeah.
You know, I had thought that in my mind, before it gets into a product supplier's hands to actually make an order for materials, that they actually have everything quantified and, you know, broken down into a list and all organized and ready to go for the supplier. No, they just give them a piece of paper with square footages on it and say, it's your job to figure this out and, you know, give us back a number. And if that number's higher, then we'll take that higher number back to the owner and say, sorry, you've got to pay more than what we expected. So like these are the revelations we're starting to see.
Right. Okay. And to maybe give our viewers a little bit of a context. So, cause you're in the architectural space, maybe you could describe a little bit about the space that you're in.
For sure.
And yeah, cause it's a whole supply chain from the time someone wants to design a building to like actually building it and all that. There's so many different steps in the process there.
Yeah. So the space that I'm in is I cover all aspects of architecture, engineering, construction, and ownership. So in short, our whole industry is all about designing, building, and operating buildings. And that's in a nutshell where I have planted myself right in the center of it to see where I can cast my web.
And doing it the right way this time by actually talking to people on the ground and getting their feedbacks to figure out what their pain points are and all these different aspects.
Yeah, I'm taking the thrown tomatoes, if you want to say it that way. So everyone, I'm a big target all the time because, you know, you have to take everyone's advice from all different angles and the opinions are greatly different from different perspectives. So
right, yeah. How do you take out the good opinions versus the bad opinions? Like, how do you know when someone's just complaining for the sake of complaining to what's an actual problem? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I always start with, that's the way we've always done it. So the second I hear that, that's where we start to unpack. We have to first identify the real problem at hand. So look at hard numbers first. Hard numbers is when, for instance, a big one right now is 91.5% of large projects, like large projects. This could be skyscrapers, institutional buildings, whatever.
Right, building a big bridge or...
Exactly. Yeah. So 91.5% of those projects go over budget. That's a big number. And those are hard numbers that have been found.
Right. It shouldn't be, well, that's the way we've always done it. It's like, I think there's room for improvement somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So when you compare those two and you bring it to the table, you'd be like, okay, wow, okay, maybe I should listen a little bit. And then we understand we just take a look at the hard values and start from there.
So getting back to what we were saying earlier, I'd love to know from the time you started, like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and to where you are now, how many times have you actually pivoted in your company into what you're going to be doing?
When Oquli first started, like I mentioned, we wanted to get people into malls. And then I was like, well, that didn't work. And then I started seeing that there were personal goals that were coming out of being stuck at home. So, and we couldn't actually go out to gyms to do work and stuff like that. So I said, you know, I'm expert in LiDAR and scanning, so why don't I create a body scanner? And we've created the hardware concept, and to be able to use your own phone to scan your body so that you can track progression when you work out.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, so we went about it, and I started looking at the competitive market, and you know, because after the first time I was like, I don't want to do this again.
Right. And
I realized that there's an app that's free out there where you can actually scan something with your own phone that you could actually just take and do.
Okay.
So I started seeing where the natural progression of where phones were going. And I was like, I don't think this is a wise decision.
Right.
So we backed out and pivoted it again and did probably 2 or 3 more pivots on just technology we don't need. And
right. Yeah. Okay.
like a home digital twin was the next one, where you can scan your own home with your phone and connect all of the devices in your house, so that you can just pull your phone up in front of you and turn your Nest Home dial down, or if you're away, you can digitally walk through your house and like turn off your stove.
Right, like the Internet of Things, kind of wrap it all together. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess you were in the lucky position that you weren't so much married to your initial plans. Like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, have a really hard time of letting go of their babies, right? Like, this is my idea. This is the greatest idea ever. And they almost like, they're born on that hill, but they also die on that hill. But could still imagine it could still be a hard time. Like, did you have a hard time with pivoting?
Very hard. I remember, especially with the very first one, I was dead set on creating an experience, because in my head I was like, well, what happens if another pandemic or something comes out?
Right.
And for those who are, highly relying on tangibility to see and feel and do or look and hear, I was like, my mind was like, the retail of the future is going to be us being greeted by somebody at the front door digitally and being guided through a space by a generative AI. And I still think that in the back of my head that is something that we can do. And the reason, like, the technology, the hardware wasn't there at the time. And there's a part of me that's like, it would be really cool to be greeted by, Jarvis or whatever at the front door.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting you're saying that, because I'm thinking back to my failed businesses in the past. And the first one is, I had a company called Giving It Away, where the whole thing was every week we did a giveaway. This is back in like 2009, 2010. Did a giveaway for, $50 Amazon gift card or whatever. And people would just comment and tweet or whatever. And then they get points and then they pull in. And the whole idea was, okay, well, people start watching the videos, we'll get ad revenue, and then we'll just pour more. And then before you know it, we're giving away $1 million every week. Almost like a Mr. Beast kind of thing. But anyways, spectacularly failed. Well, it wasn't that bad, but we ended up giving away way more than we spent. So, you run out of money. But then I still, 20 years later, not 20 years, it's been 15, 16 years later, I'm like, maybe I still think it could work. I don't know. It's like, yeah, but it's like, it didn't work. Like, it's not, so I don't know. There's still that thing that it's just so hard to let go, I guess,
Yeah. So I've changed my mind and, about the unconventional mindset, but I've changed my mindset about it because I think I get stuck in that hole sometimes where I get an idea and I can't let it go.
Yeah.
My day-to-day job, if I've got my eye set on a task and I want to complete it today, I can't get away from it.
Right,
and I know, like, it doesn't matter if, someone's literally on fire beside me. I'm looking at it, I'm going, I'll be with you in a moment. I'm just kidding. It's not that extreme, but it's just like, I'm hard focused on getting it done. So when that idea came out of, really changing the shopping experience, I look at it as, how can I take the learnings I have from that and adapt it to some things that I've got in the future? What can I take from it? And so that I'm actually pulling that legacy of the idea and using it for something better.
Yeah, you're not just discarding everything as a complete failure, and like, there's always things to learn even when you fail. So that being said, like, how long did it take you to, all of these failings and pivots, how long did it take you to finally hone in on an actual problem and be like, okay, here's a problem, people are having it, and I actually have the technical capabilities and I think I have the ability to be able to solve this? Like, how long did it take you to finally land on something that you're actually building a sustainable business upon?
So 3.5 years. So that took 3.5 years of constantly diving in and grinding and trying to, and discouraging moments. Like, it's not all, stars and rainbows when you're designing software or making your business. Everyone thinks these businesses just fall and happen and it's all happy, but there's so much work involved. And I was at a conference in Las Vegas, and I was just there to network. It was the first time I've been to a conference not to just go and take classes. I just went there to just talk.
Yeah, you're not participating, you're not giving talks, you're not doing a booth, you're actually just engaging with people. And
that was a year I was changing my mindset. I was throwing ego out the door and just trying to say, like, I got to change. I got to just start listening. So I went around and started listening. And one of the things I found when going to this conference, which was an architecture, engineering, and construction conference based around technology, and there was a common thread. Everyone was asking, we want to review our projects without having to spend 80% of our day doing it. Like, we want to be able to check our projects are right. Like, we need a tool to help us do that. And the voices were not being heard. They were like, that's way too difficult to do. Like, that elephant is so massive to chew.
And that's because it's leading into so many different industries, right, that don't really communicate together.
Exactly. They were like, why would we want to open up that Pandora's box or that, you know? So I started just finding out what that meant. Like, who did it affect? And the answer was 100% of the entire industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you have this knowledge, you have this information, and like, what do you do with that information? Like, is it a step by, like, is there any kind of repeatable process that you've done to kind of get to using that information to creating something?
Yeah. So again, went at it wrong at the very beginning. I looked at it at face value, because that's where my mind went. So when the word compliance comes up, and I had asked this at a conference in Boston in June the past year. And at that conference were the leaders of the Fortune 500 companies that are part of our industry.
Yeah.
And I had asked some of them, just not knowing who they are, just walked up in the crowd and asked them, what do you think compliance is? And they're like, oh, compliance to building codes. What do you think it is? Oh yeah, codes, building codes. And they all had the same answer. And I was like, so they don't know either. And I realized that I've got to unpack that. So what I did is I went wrong. I made an application to start that tried to fix building code, like building code analysis on our projects.
Okay.
But I realized it's such a fractional part of building anything, like in our industry, like a bridge or whatever. I realized so I had to redefine what compliance actually was.
Okay.
And compliance to codes, to costs, to specs, to owner's requirements, to whatever. So I started just navigating the industry across North America and the globe and started asking, who do you talk to? Who do you talk to? What do you do? And that's where it really started ballooning.
Okay.
I needed to understand how bad and how wide this problem was.
Right. So it's almost as if you saw this the first time, you kind of get an idea, but you kept digging until you really kind of uncovered like the root of the problem.
Yeah. The word I've been using quite is I'm jumping in the helicopter and zooming way above to see exactly what we're looking at. So, and that is what it kind of meant about leaning in and squatting before you jump, because you really have to get down to the base of the problem to find out how high it goes.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any, this might be a little bit difficult to answer, but do you have any actionable tips or advice on how someone can go about trying to figure out what the root of a problem is?
Yeah, it's a lot easier than we think. And everyone's tried to really dig into this as much. And I'll have to give Reza Sachu a big shout out for this one, because this was from him.
Who's he?
So Reza Sachu, who started up Next Canada there. He's a Harvard professional. He's really smart. And
okay.
We've learned so much from Reza. He's a fantastic human being and has really kind of ingrained business. The founder's mindset is his baby.
Oh, okay.
He basically said, just knock on doors. Just pick up the phone, call. Like, it's that easy. Don't sit there and try and figure it out yourself. You're going to just turn yourself in circles over and over and over again. So, there are tons of examples out there of somebody who, have tripped coming off of an escalator or something, or have gone on a vacation and the booking was terrible and it just sat with them. They're not experts in that field, but the problem was enough that it ruined their lives somehow mentally, and they have not been able to let go. So you do not have to be a professional in that field to recognize.
Well, you're a customer. You're spending money to solve something in your life.
Yeah. And if it's ingrained so badly in you that you can't sleep at night and you're staring up at the ceiling being like, this has to be solved,
right?
Then, you've found it, and that's really it.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to go out and knock on doors? Is it just because people are afraid of just communicating? Because it's what you're saying is not difficult.
Yeah.
But at the same time, are people just too afraid of talking to people? Like, what's going on here?
And that's it. There's a worry about, is my question going to be rejected? And am I going to be met with, why are you here and taking up my time?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is way bigger than, like, in your mind, the problem should be way bigger than just asking, because it really comes down to it. You look at the owners of Bridget, they're a workforce management software for our industry. Two very, very bright minds in the industry. The two ladies went to a construction site and just went in and said, hey, can I talk to somebody? They're like, yeah, you need a hard hat and all this stuff. But they were like, they got their questions answered, and then they were able to find out that their assumptions were incorrect, and they molded and worked.
Yeah.
But because that they went in and asked questions, they're like, well, let's just keep doing that.
Yeah. And the more questions you ask, the more you're going to unearth and find, I don't know, find the truth, I guess, of the matter, which
Yeah.
is key. Okay, I want to zoom in a little bit into talking about just business in general. And you mentioned something like, obviously you're very technologically savvy, so you understand all the stuff with the computers, teaching people when they're 15 doing AutoCAD, and you kind of understand what it takes to build software, right, and hardware and software. And it's a very difficult thing to do. But there's a lot of founders out there that don't know how to build software. And they're like, I'm going to start a software company because they have an idea in their head. Or even they're like, oh, I have a business. I want to build software for my internal tools. What kind of advice could you give them, or a little bit of warnings to understand like what they're getting into? Because again, they can fall into a lot of trouble without even knowing the difficulties of making software.
Yeah. And to that comment, it is ballooned tenfold in terms of what you're seeing in the media right now about, there's a lot of AI can just design your app for you in 2 seconds. And
Right.
so that's getting a lot worse now because we're now getting into the mindset of, yeah, I can just use that tool and jump in and create a software from scratch. And to give you warning, it's just do your homework. Like you have to understand that there's so much to creating a software. It is not just jump in and go. Things that take the wayside, like security and the hidden costs and the aspects of privacy, and there's all the social and economic aspects to building a software, never mind the actual building of the software itself.
Right.
There's a lot of homework that you need to do. So build out a plan. It's very much like doing a business plan, but you have to do a software plan as well.
Yeah. I've heard so many horror stories of people spending, 6 figures plus and ending up with nothing, because they're building the wrong thing, or the people on their team aren't very good. And like you said, even simple things like security, like, oh, I built this thing and there's all these vulnerabilities and customers aren't going to buy it because it's not up to code or whatever.
Yeah.
It could be a huge money sink.
And a big one I can say from advice standpoint, a lot of people will build it because it's not will not issue their software because it's not ready. And this is something that we very quickly learned. And it just doesn't matter if it's a garbage app and it has no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't look the way it should. But if it's the general idea, get it in front of somebody right away.
Right.
Throw the garbage at them and let them comment on it.
Right.
And this is back to like the knocking on doors thing. A lot of people are afraid of what the perceived look of it will be. But if you get the right person in there to test your software at its absolute low, and then they stay on with you,
and they stick with it, yeah,
then that just shows that it's you as a owner that is really trying to solve a problem. And that goes back to the fact that the problem is way bigger than...
Right, because they're willing to actually stick through this because they realize that, hey, if this can get to the point where I know it can be, then this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's it's funny you say that about just getting your stuff out there and people want to wait till it's perfect. Like with software, I'll tell you this right now, it'll never be perfect. There's always going to be issues with it. There's always going to be things that you can improve on. So don't wait, get it. And as you said too, if you get it in front of people, the quicker you can. Hopefully you've already done the work of figuring out what the problem is, so you're not building something that people don't want. But also when you do build it, you can figure out how people are even using it, because there's so many different things you can learn from getting in front of customers and seeing how they interact with your app or what have you, and give you all that valuable feedback.
Oh, big time. And we threw our app in front of a group of individuals and a bunch of companies, and they tore it apart, to the point where we were like, are we even doing the right thing?
Right. Yeah.
But we realized that,
put the ego aside, right?
Yeah, we did. We just listened and rebuilt, and we flipped basically retore our app out from inside out and rebuild it within a month. And listened to what they have, and then the attention came back.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about something, because you hit the nail on the head there, that it's so important to get that feedback from your customers, especially early on. So you have something that you call interactive crowdsourcing system. What is that? What does that mean?
So we're trying to find a way to stay connected with our industry. So one of the other problems, and many of these things we're trying to figure out right at the foundation of how our industry buys software, how they interact with the roadmaps of our software, and how they, really help build. And what we found is it's always the exact same formula. They put up an ideas board online. Everyone kind of just goes in and what I call the complaint box. And then they just kind of just sits there dormantly, and they pick and choose the features that are valuable.
Maybe there's like a voting system. Maybe like, oh yeah, we kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. This mentality is what we wanted to kind of steer away from. So we created a thing called Journey, and Journey is our interactive crowdsourcing system. It's 4 parts to it. We those key aspects are cost. Obviously, we need to fund. We're bootstrapped entirely. We have no VC backing, no whatever. We use purely the dollars and cents from our industry to power the app that we have, and that's a whole nother topic on its own. We use user input, software testing, and then just readiness of the application. So all of these aspects are key to filling out a part of this journey. So that journey that is actually a big skill tree. And that skill tree, very much like video games, if you play like Jedi Knight or whatever it is, I'm a huge nerd, I love games.
Yeah.
But you gain capabilities in your software or as a player, and you slowly go over time.
+1 hacking and +1 this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So we treated it very much like that. We want our industry to buy into things that they need.
So you're almost letting the industry kind of, like, if you look at that skills tree on a video game, you're like, you can kind of decide what you want to level up, like 1 bit at a time, right? Because you can't build everything all at once. Because like you said, you're bootstrapped. So that's the kind of mentality. Is like everyone's getting together, talking about what's interesting not what's interesting, but what's going to save them money and all that stuff.
Yep.
And then they pick out what's the best thing, and then you go forth and you build that feature.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
So those Storm of Brain sessions that we have are a huge help for that. Like we've talked to close to 400 or more companies within the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
And it's and that number just keeps going up. And a lot of the feedback, we just take it back after our meeting. We use AI to jot down our notes. We find out what the common threads are, and we take those common threads and we put it into a pool and say, like, these are the big issues, and everyone's sharing them. It's like, is this something you want us to tackle? And they go, yeah. And we go, all right, into the roadmap it goes.
Perfect. Yeah. Let's get into that. What you were saying about bootstrapping. Is that part of your core almost philosophy of how you want to continue to do this? And is it because you want to do things differently, because you really want to be almost beholden to your customers and people using the software, as opposed to, VCs or, people that, might have different motives, right? Because they want to get their money back or whatever.
Yeah. We were always told from individuals that have guided us on this journey here that the venture capital is not the goal. It's to help you get to that goal. And we found that because we're so passionate about the problem, and because we want to understand right from our clients exactly what those issues are, we want to stay tangible to that. And to keep ourselves lean and to keep ourselves connected, we decided we're going to go the hard route and fund this ourselves. And it is no easy task.
Right.
For anyone out there, bootstrapping is very difficult, but it also puts accountability on the industry to really feed into the problem. If they want this problem solved bad enough, they will invest in it.
Right. Okay. So can I ask you, how big is your team right now?
Oh, we're super lean. We've got 3 of us.
3 of you?
Yeah.
Full time?
Yep. Full time.
Okay.
So we've got my business partner, Paige, who's the COO. She's handling all the operations.
Okay.
We got a full stack developer, Shivani, that's working with us. And then it's myself running the technology and CEO of the company.
Okay. Right on. And so you obviously have paying clients right now. So are you at the point now where you're sustainable in terms of making enough revenue to be able to at least,
Oh geez, we're a startup. We only just started back in August. So we have a mixture of service revenue and software revenue. So our service revenue, so this is another, interesting aspect of what we do. Our service revenue is we go in and assess companies from top to bottom in terms of in our field.
Okay.
We look at their administrative systems, their production, their drawing systems, et cetera. And we spend weeks with them to try and figure out how their operations go. So we take that and use the learnings from that as well as the income to help build Cody.
Right.
So it really is like working at 3 different levels, and it helps them identify new areas of efficiency. It helps us build into the app, and it helps us fund it.
Well, I love that. It's kind of like taking multiple different approaches in order to figure out, like, again, it's bootstrapping. It's not always the one way to do it, and that's it, right? It's like, how can we do things to get revenue from different sources as well? Yeah.
And the hardest part is like, well, we can go and take on like residential home design projects, or we can go and do this and that. And we looked at it and we're just like, but that just takes us away from the main goal of what we're trying to accomplish. So we wanted to find a way to give back to the community while also fund ourselves and then also maximize our learning.
And so you mentioned Cody. So that's kind of your core software offering.
Yeah.
And how would you say it's going so far?
Oh man, it's exciting. So we just yesterday, we promoted Cody on a massive platform, which is AI and AEC. And it's they have been storing the 1,700 plus AI apps in our industry. And we got to actually finally demo our product out to the community.
Okay, yeah.
And the feedback was great. And we're really excited for that. But so when Cody first started, we actually launched a initial product last year, and it was called Cody Scout. It was a little chat bot, and we basically got laughed off of the because they're like, there's thousands of those, and I was like, yeah,
Right.
you're right, yeah, there is. And
It's kind of like comedians where they go up. Sometimes, you have to go in there, you got to bomb and then like learn the chops or whatever. Yeah.
so it wasn't that we were wrong, and we found that we just didn't have enough, and we released something to try and get our feet in and start discussing, and realized it's just the wrong thing. So we went out and did more learning. We just met with more people, knocked down more doors, and we eventually got a pilot team up and running and said, why don't we talk about where this can go and what can do? And we piloted with architectural firms and engineering firms and building code firms, and then that's where it now created our MVP in August. So, So Cody, the commercial one that's out, is the design and construction brain, and now it's kickstarting in a positive way. So
right on. So are you getting to the point now where, you said earlier, it's like sometimes you just shove stuff in front of customers and see what it's broken, but there's also a time where it's like, okay, well, it's still not ready for mass, marketing or whatever. But are you at the point now where like you're doing demos and you're showcasing? So now it's almost like the rubber's starting to hit the road now. You've worked out kind of the main kinks and you got something really to show people.
Yeah, we have an anchored foundation now, and because of that, we can add on features more fluidly, and we're having individuals using it, which is great. And we've got our first conference coming up in June. We're going to San Diego. So
you guys are going to be presenting there. That's awesome.
We got a booth there, which is really exciting.
That's in June?
Yep.
In where?
It's in San Diego. So at the AIA conference there.
Nice.
So if any of you are out there, come check us out.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. That's even just a nice trip down to San Diego.
I know.
Okay, so that being said, I love what you're saying here because you spent all this time, 3.5 years pivoting, and you got you got boots on the ground now. And again, this is only like 6 or 7 months. You said you kind of had this Cody, and where do you see yourself now in the next few years? Like, do you have any thoughts on where you want to be?
We've actually built out an extensive roadmap for about 5 years worth of work, 3 years dedicated, and we have a number of large enterprise firms with upwards of 18,000 employees, and some of the individuals that are at that firms are working with us to really help build that roadmap, which is a completely separate topic about Canada versus U.S. enterprise, but we're working heavily with US.
What do you mean by that, Canada?
So we're experiencing, and this is for anyone who's listening and who's starting a business, what we found here, especially in our architectural area, that to buy software or to move anything in terms of business in Canada to sell to Canadian companies, and this is just raw figures. So we have found that it's been taking about a week to 2 weeks to sell something to a company in the States versus 12 to 18 months here in Canada. So
that's ridiculous. Especially when you're talking about Canadian companies trying to sell to other Canadian companies.
It's hard, and I don't know if it's because of incentives. We're also finding that a lot of U.S. service-based companies or consultants are VC backed. And we're finding that a lot of them they
got a lot of money to burn.
They have investment behind them to help them make rapid decisions.
Right.
We're finding that's not the case here. And a lot of things have to go through, a corporate initiative, go through stages, and have to go through different levels. And the government is also another holdback.
I was going to say, is it a lot of regulations that are stopping people too?
Yep, a lot of regulations. There's a lot of private versus public projects also have weigh into those. So security concerns are a huge thing. So to actually get software into the hands of the users here is a big, arduous task. So before you even start, the topic is, all right, we need to actually vet through this process and make sure that we can actually, it's part of our budget, it's part of our this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas you go down to the States and I won't name a few companies, but some of the ones we worked at were like, this is a problem we need solved right away. Let's get on it.
Right.
And,
Let's do.
It's like,
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know what it is here. I haven't spent much thinking about Canada versus US, but the US seems so much more primed to allowing entrepreneurs to just be entrepreneurs and actually grow their business, which in turn grows the economy. So it's sad that everything can be so fast in the States. I don't know if it's because they're so much bigger, but I feel like we're small too. We should be even faster. We should allow people to develop and grow. But yeah, I don't know if it's all government regulations and red tape, or if it's just a lack of funding. Because I know me as an independent business owner, like I don't have any red tape. Like if I see a solution and I have the money for it, I'm going to buy it because I know I need to move fast. But yeah, that's just it's unfortunate.
But it's interesting that we take a different mindset on it. To that point, like we're not opposed to selling. Like we're actively pushing product here. Like it's,
for sure,
because we've been told like right from the get go from our mentors, just go to the States.
Right.
Like just go to the States.
So they know. Yeah.
We were like, no, because the voices that we heard say that we need to really try hard and get things happening here. So that's what we're doing. We're actively working with our East Coast teams here, companies like Leiden Lynch and East Point, Design Point, who are really trying to push the envelope, and actively in Toronto all the way to the other side in British Columbia.
Right.
Like we are pushing hard to really help understand that compliance is a major thing. And it's again, it comes down to them and the bureaucracy. So,
but in the meantime, it's not a bad idea to go down in the States and get a few clients so that, you can get to the point where you have a good foundations, you have sustainable, you got the cash flow coming in, and then you could worry about those longer 12, 18 month cycles in Canada. And then you can afford to take the time then, right? So it just makes sense on a business front. Yeah.
And again, to those who are listening who are, Canadian companies looking to buy software, we're here for the long run. Like we started with your teams at the very beginning, knowing these cycles are going to take some time, but because patience, we want to listen and be part of it.
So with all that in mind, with a 5-year road plan, like, is there anything that had to have changed in terms of how you've approached business? Like, is there any mindset shifts that you've had to do in order to be like, okay, now I'm kind of approaching this new phase of business? Like, has there been any shift?
Yeah, we're in the middle of it right now. So it's a unique area because usually you hear stories of those who have hit successful or at the very beginning, and we're right in the middle between MVP and like finding market fit and then going to scale. So we're smack dab right in the middle. And right now we're getting ready to take product and scale with companies across North America. But we're trying to find out what we need to do that. And we're in a weird transition in the world where agentic AI is being pushed on us quite a bit to be able to stay lean. What was one of the comments we got recently was in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, you're going to see the first one-person ran company that's a billionaire.
Okay.
It's a wild thing
to
think
wild.
of. Yeah. And all because of agents.
$1 billion.
Yeah. Woo. I know. It's someone out there. Someone out there is going to do it. So, but again, that's
do you agree with it?
I don't know. I don't want to, because that just means that there's a lot of people that are in need of work. So that's in my mind. I like the Toyota approach where we could automate the entirety of car construction, but why would we want to do that? Let's put buttons on machines so they still have to be pushed so that we can provide jobs.
Okay. Is that what Toyota has said officially?
Yeah. If you look at their systems, like they could have at any time just automated their whole line. But they have purposely, like they have buttons on their machines so that they can still maintain jobs on the line and keep things going. I always thought that was great. I love Toyota for that. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I just had to get a new car recently, and I wanted to get Toyota, but they're just more expensive. Yeah. So, but then I probably should have, because then they hopefully last longer. My first car I bought was a Toyota Corolla, which was an awesome car. But that's interesting. You're saying stuff about pushing buttons. This is totally tangent, but I hate cars now that all they have is just a dashboard and it's a touchscreen. Like I don't want to play like an iPad when I'm driving. Like I need buttons, and I love to have tactical buttons. I don't know how. Like Teslas, I think they're really cool, great cars. But there's no buttons. I don't want a big, huge touchscreen. It's terrible.
I think I had heard about the one of those car companies. It was a SUV, and they had their whole front dashboard was all touch, and it just turned off. And it was like,
Oh,
no,
like in the middle of someone driving?
just
Oh.
there was happening with many vehicles, like where it just wasn't visible, and it was like, where's your tourney volume dial? Like, I mean, that's one of the things that drive me nuts. I got a Honda, and it has the two dials on it, which you would expect is one controls climate and the other one controls volume. They both control climate, and the volume is a touchpad on the screen.
That's terrible.
And I was like, oh,
every time you're driving.
when you want it, like, you got a guitar up on your wall here, but like, if you're a music lover like I am, like, when you hear, and I'm a huge heavy metal fan, so when I hear something that just gonna get my heartbeat going, I want to crank the music.
It up, eh?
But that crank is gone, and now it's just like, now I'm just feeling derpy and tapping a button.
It's like you're just ruining the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you gotta have that big dial. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, so it's crazy where AI is going, and maybe we can just talk about this very, very quickly. Just since we're kind of talking about technology, like in your industry, where do you see AI going, and do you see it as kind of like a threat, basically, to what you're doing?
I think if you're not thinking of it as a threat, there's a certain level of ignorance towards it. I think you need to be prepared. Every company that's out there that is currently doing things traditional methods, and by traditional I mean non-AI or non-automation, you have to take 1,000 steps back and look at it. Build an AI policy. Start with a policy. Understand the rules and what you need to put in place. I've been to some companies who are full on AI. They'll allow it. They'll say, go ahead, by all means, use your chat GPTs, use your whatever. But if you make a decision based on AI and it's wrong, you're fired. Like, they've like blunt right in the black and white writing. They're like, if you make a decision and half of this building falls over because you've counted on AI to give you that answer, that's your job.
Yeah.
So, and some have gone that extreme. I've heard that in my conversations. That's their AI policy. So they, but anyway, so build a policy, make sure you understand it, because like it or not, it's going to be part of our workflow. So
yeah, you can't avoid it. I mean, there's some people that are like, that's it, I don't touch AI at all. But I feel like that's more on a personal level. But if you're doing it for work, and especially if you're not building your own company and you can do whatever you want, but if you're like an employee, I mean, you kind of have to figure it out. Eh?
Nobody touched Excel when it first came out. Like, there was accountants that still preferred to do things on paper.
It's like, that's it. I got my calculator here. You know, we're all good.
I can write 10 times faster than a typewriter. Why would I need a typewriter?
Right.
And that's what I mean. We've had these shifts before. It's nothing new. When we were the age of paper to computer, I was at the tail end of it. We were getting computers. The Windows 3.1 was my first computer.
Okay, yeah.
It's there. You got to look at it seriously as to what historical progressions have been there, and at least get a knowledge of it. At very least, understand why you're not doing it.
Right.
Again, like, make a phone call to yourself. Like, come on.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Make a phone call to yourself. Yeah, I like that. It's being open and honest about, who you are, what you can do, what your limitations are, and why you think the way you do. That's really interesting to think about. So let's talk a little bit about mindset here. What would you say would be your biggest unlock in your mindset as an entrepreneur?
The biggest thing was ego. Like, I came out of an industry where I was training and doing a lot of expert, being the expert in my field. And I had to detach myself from being the expert to not knowing a thing. So I would say that that's now carried through. I would say now I really don't even care what I have to say anymore. I want to just learn from everyone. I'm doing the same thing in hockey and coaching right now. I have 3 assistant coaches that work with me. They're all fantastic. And I'm not going in there saying I know everything.
Right.
I want to go, like, what are you seeing? Am I doing something here? Like, what are you, like, there's a different angle. I couldn't quite see that. Is there something I can learn from this? And now I'm adapting that to my whole life. And because of that, I've been able to have informed decision from everything I do.
Does it seem like it's making your decisions easier?
Big time. It's making, because now I have all the pieces. Like,
right.
Before, I can only see what's in my vision. And this is going back to the whole model we built for Cody. Cody was intended to bring everyone in the industry together and communicate. And I can't do that if I don't do that myself.
Yep.
So I have to hear from all aspects and understand so that we can actually build something that means something.
I find it's difficult, or a lot of people have trouble with hearing things that they don't want to hear, or hearing things that go against what they believe in. And I think it's hard for people to kind of stay resilient. What have you done to kind of stay resilient through this, all these different shifts that you've had to go through?
I've honestly, I keep one thing in the back of my mind all the time, that no question's stupid. And cause everyone, so many people, you'll catch it all the time. Sorry, I have a stupid question. And I'm like, no, it's a question.
It's a question, yeah.
It's going to lead to an answer, which is always the way I look at it. As like, no question's dumb. You should just not discount it, because it's going to lead to an answer. That answer might not be the best one, but I see that no answer is the wrong answer. It's opening up to another question that'll get you to the right answer.
It's almost like finding little pieces of the puzzle, right? Like you might have it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, but you ask one question. Yeah, you might not have everything, but it's shining some light into it, right? Just a little bit at a time.
And I've always been in those situations, and I keep going back to hockey because it's just so fresh in my head. We're doing a thing right now where we're transferring C's from player to player every game.
Okay,
like we're not doing the traditional
just one guy. Yeah.
So we're giving everyone the opportunity to.
Well, because you're talking like 10-year-old level, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So we're giving them the opportunity to stand up and be the captain of the team, and it gives them opportunities. Because what we found growing up is, you would assign a kid in the first 3 weeks the captain role for the team, and they would just be the leader for the whole year. But you'd get 3 or 4 kids that all of a sudden stepped up 6 weeks down the line, and they're showing leadership skills, and you just have to say, no, stay down where you are.
Right.
And those of you who are middle management in companies, this is what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I just have to wait 10 years until this person leaves that role so I can, but you're not getting recognized enough for the effort you do, and you should. And we realize that this is a skill that you can take on later in life and show leadership to many others. So
what would you say to that person, though, that is in middle management, that they know that there's no real way to go? Like, what would you recommend to them? Do they stick through it? Do they try to figure out different things that they can do, change in their career? Like,
yeah, I can't really give too much advice to that one. You're going to have to find this one out on your own.
Yeah.
What I would say, though, is if you are going to show your worth in a company, show it visually. Like you have to come to the table with what your idea is and back it up. I have so many people that come to me and say, I know what I'm talking about will work, but I cannot get an audience with the members that I have. And usually that's because the message you're trying to get across is too long. Like you need to show very simple. And I'll give an example of this. A company I worked with in Toronto, they're like, okay, you got half an hour. What are you selling? What are you doing? And you know what, I'll give you a minute. And I just went up on the board and drew 3 bar graph things on the wall.
Yeah.
And I said, this is where you're hemorrhaging money. And they're like, okay, you got an hour and a half.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So these are the things, like, make your message simple. And to those of you who are middle management and trying to get up there, make it simple. Like, really show the values, communicate it very effectively, and show where you can go. And if it's not caught with the right ears at that time, then you're going to have to make a decision or find another route that can maximize your capabilities. It comes down to you. If you want to stay in a company in middle management for 30 plus years and stay where you are and do your thing and not really get to that mental capacity, then it's probably time for a move.
Speaking about, I guess, a little bit of the individual and, deciding whether they want to keep going, or some people, they get so exasperated, I find, they just kind of give up. They're like, I can't do this anymore. Did you ever come to that point when you're building your business and be like, you know what, I think I'm going to quit? And if you did, like, what made you kind of keep going?
Yeah, so that actually happened in my personal business. For 10 years, I ran Blueprint Design and Build. It was a company that designed residential homes. And, it's weird. The world has a funny way of just kind of giving you these warnings.
Okay.
And I'm not a spiritual person or anything, but I closed my business 6 months before COVID hit. So that's what I mean. Like, there's some things and because housing just dropped immediately once COVID hit, right?
Right.
There was no work at all. But I closed before that because there was such a personal aspect to designing homes. The margins were so low. Like, everything was just, I mentally, and dealing with the money and dealing with all the aspects of this and chasing. I just looked at it. I was like, yes, I love the artistic side of this and I love designing and I love the aspect, but I'm just not sleeping at night for next to nothing.
Yeah.
And the same thing with employees and stuff at the time. It was just not working. And we just said, you know what, let's close up shop.
So
and
you knew that it was time to
yeah.
quit. What about the reverse side of it? Has there been anything with what you're building now where you were unsure of whether it was going to work or not, and you thought about quitting, but then you're like, you know what? No, I'm going to stick to it. And then you kind of saw the, you crawl through the worst of it, and now you're kind of coming up on the other side.
Oh yeah, that was Cody Scout. It was
Right.
So when we first started off, just to show how fast this moved. So 2 years ago, AI just kind of fell in our laps.
Right.
It was, but it didn't really. So 2010 was when, or like back in that time. And for those of you who don't know, OpenAI started from University of Toronto. It's Canadian, so it's
was it really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
ChatGPT and all that started from great minds at University of Toronto, and a bunch of them that were taking part. And that graph of how things happen landed 2 years ago until it became public knowledge, and they were like, "Oh well, AI." It was like, no, it was actually been here for a while. So when we kickstarted this, we came out with this chatbot, and everything was great. And within 3 months, the agents started coming out, and the agents were starting to create chatbots basically overnight. And you can just do it. And then we were like, okay, well, we've got to start. And then eventually we got into this leapfrog moment where we were creating stuff a week behind what the AI agentic approach was.
Right.
And it was getting discouraging. And there was, at that point, we just realized, and we got some advice from another investor that said, stick to your guns. The problem and the person is what is going to keep your product going forward.
Right.
And, just stick to what your problem is, and never mind the noise, never mind the whatever. He's like, if you solve it the right way and you maximize your learning, the speed will come with it.
Right.
So,
I love what you're saying there. I think there's a couple key takeaways. Number one is try to avoid, it's so hard to say for entrepreneurs, but avoid the shiny object syndrome, right? There's always a new shiny thing that like, oh, if I just do this, this will be amazing. No. Stick to what you're originally doing. Keep going. Sometimes it's slow and boring, but that's what it takes to put in the reps to really understand it.
Yeah.
And also have some good people in your corner that are going to help you through those dark times, or you're having thoughts in your mind of like, oh, I think this is no good. It's like, no, have those people. And then again, always be talking to your customers, always be talking to people and learning as much as you can. And then just keep going forward. And then, before you know it, like you said, you just come out the other side and it's like, okay, now we got some really good traction, and here we go. Yeah. It's like that exponential growth, just get there.
Well, I keep looking at the unconventional mindset, and, we were asked the question, and I'll go back to Reza. He was fantastic in this. Every time he started a presentation, he would always ask the crowd, just like, what's it mean to be a founder? And like, what do you have to have up here? And I always thought about it all the time. And I was like, it's just this mental like block. You cannot, and it's hard for others to understand, but I lie down on my bed and I look up at the ceiling, and all I can think about is solving this for everybody. This is all I can think about. It doesn't matter. Everything else is just blocked out at the moment, but I cannot think of anything else but to solve non-compliance for this industry. It's all I think about. And when things fail, I just look at it, okay, well, what can I do to unfail it to get there? And it's, but it's again, like, even though I have that mindset, it's still listening as to how we can get there. I have to listen to make it work.
For those people that are listening, that there's a lot of entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast. For them that are unsure of what it is that they want to do, and they're kind of unsure of where they want to go in their life, is there any kind of advice or anything that you can tell them in order to get them to make that leap and make that decision to, go ahead, you can go for it. You can shoot your shot in a sense, and you can try to make it work.
I would say it has to be a burning desire. Like if you're looking at it and just saying, oh, you know what, that'd be nice to go after, but you don't have the tenacity to go and bang down those doors and go after it and just go out on that limb, it's not the right fit. You have to look at this problem like it is something that is really fighting against your own personality. Like it's just, it is a mindset. It really is. You have to be it has to be that one focus of yours, and you have to be on it and just tough and resilient and just not want to give up on it. But if you look at something, you're like, hey, I want to create a new nose for that X-wing there. And you're like, it'd be nice to do. And maybe put it off to the side for now and go at it, then it's not a problem that you're passionate about.
It sounds like that's more of a hobby then.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying about, like, I'm up at night thinking about this problem, and you're just in it so much that you're going to have that mindset and that resilience because it's so important to you to go through all the hard times that inevitably come with entrepreneurship. Like we were talking before, problems with software, there's so many different problems that you have to go through in order to get success, you know. And what we see on TV, we kind of talked a little bit about this, that those people that look like they're successful, it looks like they got there overnight because we're just seeing them, but yet we don't know the 10 years that it took for them to go from A to Z. And then it just looks like it's easy, but it's not. There's so much to do. So if you don't have that passion to solve that problem, you might not, it might not be for you, which is okay.
There's a movie, I think it was called The Startup, I think in 2001. I think it was.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, watch it. It's really good. So a bunch of...
It's just called The Startup?
Yeah, I think it was a bunch of, I can't remember if it was Harvard grads or whomever, but they decided they would film the journey of doing a startup. And they did everything right from the idea all the way through to the company. I'm not going to spoil anything. Okay, don't spoil it. I'm not. So watch it. It's not a really good one.
Is it a real true story?
Yeah, it's a true story.
Oh, okay, so it's like a documentary.
It's a documentary.
Oh, okay. I thought this was just like some kind of
no, they legit like followed them with cameras.
Oh, interesting. Okay, don't spoil it. No. Well, I guess. Well, okay, all right.
Yeah, I won't say, but it's a great movie. So
okay, I'll have a look at that. So Denis, this was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on board. I want to give you coming on the show. All aboard, yeah. I want to give you a chance to give the last word here. Is there anything that you want to say to the people that are listening today that are either in the entrepreneur space or in the architectural space? Just, what is it that you want people to know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. First of all, do your homework. The AI space is all scary right now, so just get yourself informed. Maximize the learning because everything's changing, and so should you. But biggest thing is stay strong. Like we're just in the startup phase. So everything you hear today, we're in just as much as a grind as you are as entrepreneurs. It's a hard hill to climb, but you just keep on it and keep going strong. And for those in the AEC industry that are listening, go check out Cody. We're actively selling right now. We're looking for more people to jump on board, especially our Canadian teams. Get on there. We want to help you out. So
yeah, maybe in 6 to 12 months, but eventually though we'll be there to help you out. No, I love that though because you're still sticking with the Canadian because it's. I don't know if you mean like I still, there's problems with Canada, problems with every country, but I love this country. Born here. I mean, I want Canada to succeed and be like number one in so many different aspects. I know we can be. So it's like let's work with our Canadian companies and see what we can do with 100%. Them. Yeah. So Denis was fantastic, and then we'll have to have you on again in the next 6 months or a year just to see where things are at with your business because it's always great to see people in the community going forward in their business. So again, thank you for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.